Welcome back to the Djellab channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're doing well, because I know I am. Joining me today are Patrick Van Straten. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. Yeah.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it.
Henry's gone.
Henry's gone
out. And as we know, as everyone says in the comments, like Henry and I hate each other.
Exactly.
We've always hated each other. There's nothing but animosity between us.
But who do you love? A man sipping a lime and soda water drink to your right.
My favourite musician.
Yes.
My favourite former co-worker, no offence. It's Michael McCubbin.
None taken. How you doing, McCubbin?
I'm well, thanks. Yeah, not too bad.
Glad to hear it.
Thanks for the compliments.
How's things dealing with Man United's low form?
It's all right. Yeah, just learn not to care, really.
Yeah.
I don't know when this is going out, but yeah, I mean, as we film this, United are 2 games unbeaten. You might be watching this after the FA Cup on the weekend, so we're probably out of that. But yeah,
have you got in the cup?
Fulham.
Wow.
So,
Fulham in the cup and then Arsenal in the league, I think.
Yeah. Wow.
So could be a big week.
A continental derby, some would say, of continental clubs.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here, McCubbin, and joining us for a big video. Of course, this one is the yearly review, where we basically look at every transfer that has happened and rank them for how they're doing so far this season. Now, when this video goes out, it'll be the middle of March, or at least the start of March anyway. And so we've had a couple of games for all the new January signings. And obviously we've had nearly 3/4 of the season to rank the boys that joined in the summer. And so without further ado, we can kick things off and talk about all of the deals that happened. Now, obviously, there are going to be some deals we're not going to touch upon. If some, academy kid joined, or some guy that's barely played anything and hasn't really contributed and didn't cost that much, we might not touch upon them. But without further ado, let's kick things off with Arsenal.
Okay.
Now, this summer, they brought in Calafiori, Mikel Merino, David Raya doesn't really count, joined the season before, Raheem Sterling on loan, Neto, and that is it. So let's start off with Calafiori. Funny this, because obviously the previous video we spoke about was the overrated Premier League 11. Calafiori came into our left-back spot, but for £40 million, a lot of money. The way we're going to do this as well, I should add, either it's a good transfer or a bad transfer. That's it. That's what we have to put them under.
Oh, that's
so I think it allows us not to kind of escape with an easy
crazy,
C.
Zach.
Yeah.
So Calafiori, McCubbin, what do you make of him?
Well, I don't think it's a bad transfer. I think it's a good transfer. I don't know. I feel like Arsenal maybe could have gone for more of a specialist at left back. In hindsight, just in terms of their overall squad building, it still feels like they need maybe another left back this summer, and it just feels like that's unhelpful for what Arteta wants to do long term at Arsenal. I think Arsenal's summer window last year was their worst window in quite some time, and I think has contributed, as well as all the injuries and everything, to where they are now. But it's still I still think Calafiori's been good this season. I don't know what you guys said about him on your overrated 11, but I don't think he's a bad player, and I think he has been an asset to Arsenal. You think about that goal he scored against Man City back in September. I feel like he's propped up with a couple of other decisive moments in games. So yeah, I think he's been good.
Okay. Basically, what we said, I think, in our overrated 11 was a lot of money was spent on him. For what a transfer fee is now, 40 plus for a defender. That is a lot of money. And at times this season, it feels like he's been basically replaced by Miles Lewis-Skelly. He's done a very good job.
Yeah, though I think that's kind of a separate question. Right?
It is.
Because a midfielder from the academy, being ready to play left back in the Premier League at 18 is a good problem to have rather than a knock on Calafiori, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It is a good problem to have. But what we do think as well is this is somebody who defensively, and keep in mind he's a centre back originally,
not for a while,
hasn't really contributed too much, I think, to Arsenal. Actually, going forward, he's been pretty well. He's done pretty well going forward. Scored a fantastic goal against Man City, but actually defensively he looks a little bit weak, and that's maybe where he's being asked to do the most.
But do you think he would look better defensively playing as centre back? My problem with him isn't that he can't defend; it's that he has looked bad defending in space. the idea that as a centre-back you do more defending is kind of not really true. Like, centre-backs get protected and they have to defend much less space, you know, because there's very little room in behind them. They normally have a midfielder here and a full-back here. There's obviously as well, like, more lines of defence higher up the pitch. He's been brought in to cover left centre-back and to play left-back. He's 22. He's going to be at the club for some time, I think. I think it has to be a good transfer if my options are good or bad, because I think he's like a young player who can cover two positions, but I don't think he's been particularly good this season. I do think he helps the attack when he plays, I will say that. But I think he's been pretty ropey in defence, and I would trust Lewis Skelly over him in a big game, but I think that's more of a compliment to Lewis Skelly. So I don't think it's bad. I think maybe it could have been better. Yeah. It's possible that there was a player out there who didn't have the injury history, and like McCubb says, like maybe was more of a specialist in one position, or maybe had, you know, few of these defensive inadequacies, or maybe had the same defensive inadequacies, but was just like a much better attacker. Like, maybe those things were options out there. So the money might have been spent better, but I don't think it's a bad transfer, you know. Okay, so we've got two good transfers. I'm going to go with bad transfer, to be quite honest. If we're going to put it into only those two categories, we're going to have to obviously as well fly through most of these to get through every single player. Yeah, next one, Mikel Merino. Obviously joined for, I think it was about 30 million, or was it about 28 million pounds? At one point, obviously joined, then got injured. Not great considering he's not necessarily like one for the future. He's definitely a transfer for now. At times it's taken him a little bit of, well, I think in Arsenal's best 11, he's probably not starting, right? Or do you think he does play the left? I think he was intended to this season. But what we've seen from him isn't, well, now he's having to do a job up top, which is a very peculiar situation. It's hard to say because like he was injured for so long, and then Odegaard was injured, and then Saka was injured, and then all the strikers were injured. Like, I just don't really know. But I suspect next season, he won't be in the first 11. But I do think it was a good signing, the fact that, like, one, you needed a midfield cover. Like, you needed to get someone in midfield. I like Mikel Merino. I think he eats a load of ground. He defends really well. He's actually incredible in the air. He obviously won that Leicester game for us. He's had a few important goals this season. He covers a load of stuff. I do think this is money that could have been spent better. On a younger or a different midfielder? Yeah, on a different midfielder. Yeah. But like, I don't think he's a bad player, but... You think the signing's... It's not a good transfer, I don't think it's a good transfer, no. Okay. You think anything else? They're going to go and get the other Sociedad midfielder. Right? Like the guy they actually wanted. Is that not what we expect they're trying to do right now? Yeah. Zubimendi, very true. And maybe the Zubimendi, once the Zubimendi transfer happens, suddenly that Merino transfer becomes a good transfer because they've got that connection. You know, if there's a way that you can have Rice, Zubimendi, and a Merino midfield and make it work, I mean... And you're discounting Odegaard there, aren't you? But I mean, there's suddenly there's just a lot more options in that midfield. But I think just on the basis of this season alone, I think it's been a bad transfer. Like if he was younger, I would be less like inclined to say that. But, for sure, yeah. But he is the finished article essentially now. Another finished article / kind of looks like, sounds harsh, as finished career. Raheem Sterling on loan from Chelsea. Ultimately, it's a bad transfer. It's one that didn't work out. It was a decent gamble, but like it's been bad. But I think he and Neto I'll take together. I think they're both bad transfers. Yeah. Neto is fine as a backup. Neto is fine as a backup goalkeeper, but the issue is because he was a loan, Arsenal had fewer options when they needed to loan a forward in January. Right? They'd have had to make one of those guys permanent, Sterling, Neto, or send them back. So they put themselves in this corner where they actually desperately needed some short-term cover in January, and they dramatically limited their options because they couldn't loan someone from the Premier League. So I don't know that if they would have done that, but neither one of these is very good. So I don't really think either of them was like a terrible gamble at the time, but they have certainly worked out badly. Yeah, completely agree. I think Raheem Sterling's... I don't know. He's just washed. Exactly that. This is a guy who started when he was 16 years old. He's had some good moments actually for the club, but like he can't start games and play 90 minutes. I mean, what happens to him next season? I don't know. Especially after now there is visible proof he isn't going to work. When does his contract run out at Chelsea?
Yeah,
what do you mean? What happens to him next season? What happens to him next season? I'll tell you what happens to him next season. You pay him 20 million for nothing. You pay him 20 million. Same way that this season you're paying over half his wages for him to not play for Arsenal.
No, but my point being more so is like I don't know if there's another team that takes a loan move on him. Well, definitely not a top, definitely not a European team. I guess maybe one down below. But will he go to that? I don't know.
He'd go to Italy or something.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting if he took a move away. Okay, then, Raheem Sterling, Neto, bad moves.
I could totally see Antonio Conte thinking, I can fix him.
Did they ever replace? They
brought in Noah Okafor from Milan.
Okay.
But they tried to get, your boy who used to play for Newcastle, Sam Maximan.
Yeah, they did, didn't they? They did.
I would have liked to see that because I think Antonio Conte would have killed Sam Maximan with his bare hands. do you not think he'd have despised him?
Yeah,
he was not hardworking enough for Eddie Howe, and Antonio Conte was like, "Yes, get him in."
And he can't even because he doesn't play with wing backs. He can't even give him the wing back treatment. That was his great trick.
The Victor Moses,
just like transform someone into a wing back.
Kind of sick, actually.
It would be great.
Sam Maximan as a wing back.
Maybe that's what happened to Sterling. Who knows? We'll see. Okay, then on to the other team that begins with an A, Aston Villa. Mikey, Amadou Onana, 60 million quid, wasn't it? Or 55, rising.
It's a lot of money, but he's young. Cost Everton a lot of money as well. He was really brilliant at the start of the season. I think it's a good transfer. Yeah.
I ultimately do like it as well. He was someone that actually Henry brought to the table for the overrated 11. He said that basically he thinks Onana has found his level, which... I mean, if that's playing in Champions League football, even at high-end Europa League football, isn't too bad.
I think he's very highly rated, partly because of the fact that there aren't that many like deep-lying midfielders of his age who are that highly rated.
True.
It's quite a difficult position in that sense. I think like Onana sticks out because he's just got a ton of really good attributes, but maybe in another era he wouldn't have commanded that fee because they just there would have been better talent out there.
He's still only 23. And as you mentioned, like there also aren't that many DMs of his size as well. Like he's an absolute monster physically and his literal physical attributes as well. Absolutely huge, like 6'4", isn't he? He's massive when you see him in real life. But I would agree. I think it's a good transfer. I do think I don't know. I don't plan for Aston Villa to sell him, but I don't know how. Like, you don't really get that much more if you go on to sell him. I don't know if you make a profit if another club goes in for him.
You definitely don't.
You've bought him at the kind of max cost that he will end up being.
But I think he'll probably outlast Emery at that club. I'm not saying Emery's going to go soon, but they didn't buy him because they wanted him to do something this year, really. Though clearly they are trying to win the Champions League, but they bought him because they had an opportunity to go and get a Premier League proven young central midfielder who could contribute there for the best part of a decade. He might well end up doing that. And if he ends up being a superstar and you have to sell him to a bigger club, then you'll make loads of money. So it's completely win-win for them. Like I think he'll at the very least pay that back over time. Okay.
Next one, Ian Maatsen. Obviously, he joined from Chelsea. I think it was close to 40 million in the end. A lot of money. And he's not even displaced Digne, has he?
I mean, how many games has he played this year?
So far this year, Mikey, he has played...
Right?
I will get that stat for you right now, McCubbin, as it loads. But he's 22, about to turn 23. Yeah. And he's started in the Premier League a couple of games. I mean, he's had a lot of substitute appearances.
Yeah, I think based on this season, I still think as a long-term investment, I think he could bear fruit there. And we've seen the left back position at Aston Villa change quite a lot, and everyone
but no one gets rid of Digne though. No one gets rid of Digne.
I don't know. Well, yeah, I guess
coming back.
It's true. I guess Moreno ended up leaving, but Digne must be into his 30s now.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, I haven't really been tracking his age for a number of years, but I think Maatsen is still, Maatsen is still young, and has. Made it to a Champions League semi-final last year with Dortmund. To the final, sorry. Yeah. As a long-term investment, I still don't hate it. It's just that this season hasn't been good, has it?
And that fee is enough to be okay, that is enough for the future, but also we want to see an impact now as well.
That fee is almost the fee that Calafiori cost.
Yeah, very true.
And the same age. And the same in a way, you can see all the things there are to like, but there are some question marks.
Yeah.
Like, this has to be a bad transfer right now, but he is still 22, and who knows? The worry obviously is that Emery's looked at him and just thought, like, I do not like this at all. I can't use him.
Well, his defensive contribution is where I think a lot of managers worry. Like when at his prime, that season at Coventry in the Championship, he's a wing back, and you really saw the best out of him there. And I think at times he isn't very tall. He isn't very strong. I think he's like beaten quite easily.
5'5",
he does, and he can lose battles quite easily. He isn't great in the air, and that's why I think managers, especially in the Premier League, worry slightly for him.
I reckon he could have a good career though in like Germany.
Well,
he's the kind of player that, like, if he doesn't work out there, you can maybe get probably under half your money back, honestly. But some of your money back selling him on to Germany. So like but it's not good.
No, not so far, but we'll see what happens with you, Matson, over the next couple of years.
We got to whip through.
Yeah, we do.
There are like 20 of these guys.
We do. Donyell Malen obviously came in the January window. Haven't seen a lot of him just yet.
Yeah, probably too early, but I kind of like what I've seen so far. They didn't pay too much money for him.
They didn't, no. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't think we can say it's a bad transfer. I like Donyell Malen. Was wildly inconsistent at Dortmund, but I don't know. There's just something about I feel like an Emery team is a good fit for him.
Yeah.
Fair. I feel like he's a good manager for
they, especially after losing Duran, they need more options up top, and I think that's okay.
The only thing that's bad about it is getting Rashford and Marlon in the same window feels like getting two extremely similar players to me.
Yes. Well, Rashford's the other one to talk about quickly. Loan move with the option possibly.
The option is insanely expensible.
It is insanely expensive.
How expensive is it?
40 mil. Yeah. 40. And he has looked okay. He's actually looked pretty good so far for them. Obviously, coming off the bench a few times now.
He's not making an impact. He's not a useless player, and if he does get sub minutes and stuff, but these guys haven't really. These guys have been brought in to try and help them win the Champions League. We all know that, right? Yeah. They basically now don't really have a shot at top 5 because their goal difference
far off
their goal difference is like -5, so they're honestly like in a 15 goal difference deficit,
and they're so up and down at the moment,
and they're points behind, and I think they maybe have played an extra game, and they've played way more games at home than away, so they're going to be playing way more away games down the stretch, so there are loads of disadvantages for them, but I think they're just going to try and win the Champions League. So if he comes on in any game in the Champions League and makes a difference, then they'll say that was money well spent.
And they'd say that was a good signing. Cameron Archer is obviously they brought him in, but he's now on loan at Southampton. We'll maybe get onto him a little bit later. Yeah. Samuel Ling Jr., another one.
Terrible. That was bad.
And Jalen Philligy might come into this as well. Obviously now Ipswich permanently was there for 6 months, barely played. Not a good signing. So those two,
they just got him back on loan though, didn't they? From back off his loan at Hull, Jaden Philogene, right? Or did they?
No, they bought him. They bought him. They bought him back. Then had him for 6 months. Then sold him to Ipswich.
So I think they might have made a mil or two doing it. So I don't know.
Okay, maybe quick little profit for the books, which won't go amiss. Lewis Dobbin on loan at Norwich. Yeah. We'll see with that one.
Is Marco Asensio not in there somewhere?
Marco Asensio's down there on loan. Obviously, that is just a loan move.
He's been really good.
He has been pretty good, hasn't he?
Really, really good.
He has been pretty good. I think good signing, man. I mean, I was critical of him.
Man.
I was critical of the idea of bringing him in, but he has so far been really interesting. Another one that's kind of appeared off the bench a few times, but a good player to bring off the bench. I mean, if you're the opposition, you do see Marcus Rashford and Asensio coming on. It's not the easiest of half an hour if you've got left going up against them. But would you say good signing?
Yeah.
Good signing for Marco Asensio. Other one, Disasi. I actually think it's a good signing because they just needed a centre-back. Yeah. Needed a centre-back. They've got him for 6 months. And otherwise it was basically going down to playing an academy kid at times after how things have gone defensively with injuries and issues there. So I would give that a good signing. Yeah. Andres Garcia, I also think is a good signing. They need a right back.
Yeah, haven't seen enough.
Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
They've taken a bunch of cheap swings at right backs. It's fine.
Exactly. Okay, that is all of Villa's done.
Jesus.
I think so. There was a lot of signings Villa's made over that time.
So we're 2 clubs down.
We're 2 clubs down. On to AFC Bournemouth. Evan Nilsson. Good signing.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Been a really good signing, I think, in the end. Someone who I had a lot of doubts about, actually, and didn't quite know what would happen with Bournemouth's striking situation after Solanke's left. Started a little bit slow in the Premier League, but has ended up being really impressive. Obviously, he has got that injury, which is a shame. But for someone who, at times, as mentioned a couple of times, was linked to Manchester United years ago with a fee of £100 million, that never quite happened. They did spend a decent.
Did never quite happen.
Don't remember that.
They did spend a decent wedge on him in the end for Bournemouth.
They spent loads of money.
They spent £35 million on him roughly, and I think in the end, what it does show, I do think, is Iraola's ability to just create chances for a striker.
But that's kind of the thing, right? Like, that's where the question is. Like, if Iraola leaves in the summer, which is totally possible, does the next manager get as much out of their attackers? That's a big question mark. I doubt they get as much out of Kluivert. Do they get as much?
Well, even Kluivert until about 2 months ago,
Evan Nilsson's like, it's definitely not a bad transfer.
Yeah.
But like, to me, this is kind of par. They paid so much money, and the jury is still out for me.
Okay.
But I like the player.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the case for that whole Bournemouth team, isn't it? If Iraola leaves, then Bournemouth are a lower mid-table club again.
But I'd have more.
That's just the.
But if you said
reality.
you were going to take one player out of it and transplant them to another club, how confident you'd be that they'd be a success? I would put like Semenyo and Ouattara above like Kluivert and Evan Nilsson.
Yeah,
like those guys I find it easier to see.
Yeah,
but that's not a criticism. Like, but given that Ouattara, who actually was like a winger and even kind of a wing back,
played left back at times
previously, has played up front lately and has been putting up crazy numbers. You do sort of wonder, like, is this just a system that flies no matter? Like, if you've got
Solanke's goal scoring form last year, like
you've got a good centre forward. So then you say, like you're saying, you're like, is this Iraola in the way that? Do you remember like Nagelsmann's Hoffenheim teams? They would honestly put like a crash test dummy up front, and they'd get 13 goals in the league.
The making of Kramaric.
Yeah, literally. Luis Sinisterra, I mean, I think essentially it's a bad signing. They spent 20 million on him. He's been injured for half the season. Hasn't really played as well when he wasn't injured.
Yeah. I don't mind that though. I like him. I still think that'll work out.
Enes Unal, now 27 or 28. Wasn't like an incredible amount of money. I think it's about £13 million for him, but he's out for the season. Not really played at all anyway because of Evan Nilsson.
Sure. Yeah.
Guess on that, it's a bad signing.
Unlucky.
Dean Huijsen, easiest good signing ever. I mean, cost them barely anything. £13 million. Got a £50 million release clause. Looks real deal, doesn't he, Mikey?
Yeah. I think that's one of the best signings of the season. And that's the thing. We talk about Iraola's system, getting the best out of their attack, but like they've got this defense full of teenagers who are like who have been immense as well. I couldn't think of a better, not only for Bournemouth or a club of their standing, but also like it's the perfect signing for the player, perfect move for the player as well. Because it just puts him instantly in the shop window of so many clubs. Whereas I think if he'd stayed at Juventus, like maybe his career opportunities might not have been quite as big in that sense. He might have been stuck there a little bit more. So it's Juventus's loss massively. But for Huijsen now, he can basically go wherever he wants.
Take his pick, basically. Another one that came in from Barcelona, Julian Oreja, right back. Started the season really well. Then got a hamstring injury that's kept him out for most of it. I think he looked pretty good, and then he's basically been out now for months and months. So on that side, you can understand why it's poor.
I think a cheap one for the future is never that bad. And
less than £10 million.
And Bournemouth have just shown, man, but we all rave about like Brighton or whatever, but Bournemouth have quietly built up a roster of, like we don't talk about like Zabarnyi, or Kerkez. I don't think about him, and then the window comes around and it's like, will he go to Liverpool? There are so many players in their team like that, where they didn't really get credit for signing them at the time, but that is a big part of the Iraola success story.
Massively.
That he has so many tools at his disposal. He was able to try a thing at the beginning, realise it didn't work, and play a completely different way, and create a good team.
I do wonder how long it will last, though. Like with Richard Hughes now having been at Liverpool for nearly a year now, like will Bournemouth's recruitment department remain as good as it is in years to come? Like I know he was obviously not there last summer, but I think he would have laid a lot of the groundwork for what they did last summer. And obviously he was the guy who signed, who hired Arteta as well. So I do wonder about that.
One of their transfers in January, Julio Sola, hasn't really played too much, so it does feel like an impossible thing to rank him in this. But he could be the replacement for Kirkes if he moves on in the summer. Another person worth mentioning, Kepa Arrizabalaga on loan.
Yeah,
good.
I think good transfer in the end as well. It's helped with the way that Iriola wants to play his football. Been a fairly decent shot stopper. Hasn't really had that many crazy moments. Has managed to kind of get his career back to some sort of respectable level where I think other clubs, obviously he will be leaving Chelsea this summer. Bournemouth might end up going to make that permanent, or another club elsewhere. We'll see what happens with him, but I do agree, good transfer. Daniel Jefferson joined on free. I actually think it's been a good transfer. He's a young guy, done decently well up top when he's had the minutes, which is normally with the last 10 minutes to go in a game. On to Brentford. The big money signing came from Club Brugge in the summer. 24 years old now. Igor Thiago, the replacement for Ivan Toney McCubbin. Have we even seen him?
Barely. I thought it was a really great transfer at the time. Obviously, he was out till December, January. Yeah. I just feel like I've not seen enough of him.
140 minutes so far, mate. Yeah. So it's not a surprise.
I've not seen enough. It feels harsh, but I guess bad transfer. Also, I guess from the player's standpoint, in that time. I mean, Mbeumo had already, really made a name for himself, but Wiss has had a great season, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So
Schade too.
Schade, yeah. So that attack has kind of been reshaped in a different way, and so I think it's kind of going to be tough for him now that Brentford's style of play has
moved on.
It's kind of moved on from an Ivan Toney style striker. So yeah, interesting one, but I guess it was a sizable fee, and he's barely played. So so far bad transfer.
I agree. Sepp van der Berg from Liverpool. I think it's actually been pretty good. He's
okay.
He's taken time, but he's still super, super young. What do you think? Good transfer?
I think I'm fine with this. I think they overpaid. Mm-hmm. I think they overpaid a little bit. Like this is kind of like finished product money for Brentford. I think it's a lot of money for Brentford, but it's a centre back for the future. He's either going to be probably good enough for them, or they'll sell him on. But I kind of think Thomas Frank is just like a bit of a magician. Yeah. Whatever happens, he always manages to get a functional team out of it. It's remarkable, and I think when he goes, Brentford are going to be scared about what they do next.
If Frank leaves, that Brentford team will be very interested to see how they do in the Premier League. Yeah. The other Liverpool signing, if we're giving Sepp van den Berg a good transfer, Fabio Carvalho.
Bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
I think so. There's been a lot of concerning things. You want him to be a starter
for the price they paid.
Well, exactly that. And I think there are a couple of concerning things when you've heard how he's fallen out at times with not one when he was at Liverpool, but again, he apparently hasn't been an easy transition to life at Brentford when he's not starting week in, week out. When he is playing, not really doing that much. This is someone who looked super, super exciting a couple of years ago at Fulham, and really ever since then we've never seen him kind of crack on, have we, Mikey?
Yeah, I mean it's been 3 years since that season at Fulham, and the Leipzig loan didn't work out either. I feel like it's a difficult one with Carvalho.
Bad transfer, isn't it? Bad transfer. Not to say it's over for him, and he's at a club and under a manager where things could easily change, but it'll be interesting to see what happens next season, that's for sure. Maybe if, say, Mbeumo leaves and they want him to go and occupy the right wing, that could be a revival for him, but I don't know for now. It doesn't feel...
I feel like but Brentford kind of have, they've got, Mikkel Damsgaard is the guy there.
Yeah, true.
Carvalho is...
That's his position, isn't it?
That's kind of his position. That's kind of what you'd want Carvalho to be doing, which is linking defence and attack. Being the playmaker really in the final third. And Damsgaard's been had an amazing season. So it feels like his options are thin in that sense.
Didn't work out at Leipzig when he was on loan there. Supposedly attitude-wise, at Hull it was okay in the Championship, but not quite working out at Brentford at the moment. We'll see what happens with him. Down to the South Coast then for Brighton to talk about their transfers. I mean, they spent over £200 million in the summer, so we're going to have to rattle through, guys. Giorgio Russa.
Good.
I agree.
Yeah,
Good. Fine, isn't it? It is, especially for the future. Once it feels like João Pedro probably moves on this summer. Yankuba Minta, good transfer.
Yeah, great transfer.
He's really flying at the moment.
Yeah, he is, and he's getting better as well. That's the nice thing about him, to see him improving his output.
That Chelsea games,
he had us on strings, man. Absolute strings.
Cucurella had no idea what was going on. Like the first Minter goal, Cucurella almost gave him a penalty, but still got skinned to get up the goal.
He's only 20 as well. Like the guy looks a freak of nature. Mats Vifa.
Not good.
I don't think so either. It's not quite worked out for him
I think they could benefit from him though, because like their playing out is still a little bit ropey, and I do think that they've lost quite a few points this season from Huertzler teething problems. Like Huertzler figuring out this level has probably cost them a bit this season.
Yeah.
And I think during some of those moments they would have been better off having, just like a Vifa, Baleba, slightly less insane midfield.
Yeah.
But no, it's been bad so far. You buy this guy who's 24.
Third most expensive transfer in the summer.
He was meant to come in and be like a guaranteed starter and give them some solidity in midfield, because he's considerably older than the other signings. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not like he's like, he could potentially have a long career there. But I just don't think that Huertzler likes him.
Yeah, definitely not. Definitely not.
I don't mind it still. I don't think
it's okay.
I think in the long term, I think it's still a good transfer. And I don't know, second half of the season, well, the last third of the season that we're coming into, I wouldn't be surprised to see him feature more often with, with the rest of the squad getting tired.
Well, Brajan Gruda hasn't really played. They brought him in from Mainz. He cost about 30 million, hasn't really played. Ferdi Kadioglu, he's had a couple of injuries, but I think he's looked pretty good when he has played. No?
But he hasn't played that much. I don't have his minutes in front of me, but like, it feels like he's been in and out. Like he's been okay.
25 now. He's played. He's nearly at 400 Premier League minutes, which isn't a lot, but he has had. He was playing up until he got a really bad injury by the looks.
I don't know, man. Like that was seen as a bit of a coup, because he'd been linked before. They'd been linked to Arsenal. He'd been linked to Bayern, I think. Like they were like, oh, he's a possession fullback, who kind of does midfieldery stuff. Seems like he's tailor-made for a big club. And when they got him, it was like, wow, that's kind of a get. But they also paid huge money given where he came from. I don't know. I don't think that's really worked for them so far. And I think
he's been injured for most of the season.
But I think they're going to probably retool again in the defence in the summer. They've got to do at least a centre back. I wouldn't be surprised if they also looked at least one of the fullback positions.
Matt O'Reilly. Obviously came in from Celtic. I think, McCubbin, there was a lot of hype around him, really.
Yeah.
Then he suffered the injury, obviously, against Crawley Town. Took him out for a little while. And he's had moments since then.
Was it the Man City game that he was great in? How many games has he played in total? Like,
he's 24 now.
Yeah.
But he's played 12, or featured in 12 games, but yet to have 500 minutes.
Yeah. Again, it feels too early to tell.
Been on the bench the last 2 games.
Yeah, the injuries have been. But I do think long term, good signing.
Yeah, I agree.
How much did he cost again?
He cost them just under £27 million.
Yeah, it's not cheap, actually. It's not cheap out of the SPL.
And again, he's not like he's 19. He is 24 now. Bad signing.
Maybe I'll go bad. just from feeling mean.
I think bad signing for now. Good signing for the future. Good signing for the next couple of years. Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in this Brighton squad. They also signed Stefanos Timas, who's obviously doing really well, but he doesn't join until the summer. I think it's a good signing.
I love that signing. He's like 19.
He was linked to Liverpool, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
And he's 19. He's banging goals in. Like
at Nuremberg.
Welbeck is still a really important part of their attack. And they obviously don't really have faith in Ferguson anymore. So now, if their centre forward options next season are like kind of, well, we can play Timas, we can play Ruta, we can maybe play Pedro there if he hasn't gone, we can still get some minutes out of Welbeck. It's insanely deep.
Yeah, it is. It is very good. They've also got in the January window, they brought in Diego Gomez from Inter Miami. Not really seen him. And Iran Kashin from Derby, who when I watched him at Derby was easily one of their best players. So interesting, but again, not necessarily played an incredible amount. But that's basically all of their transfers. We'll move on to the next club, Chelsea Football Club.
Bad transfers.
Pedro Neto.
Bad. Unequivocally
Classic.
bad. Did you make a noise? Did you go?
I was just scratching my head.
What's the matter with you? He's been dreadful.
No,
He's quite good the other night.
I still like him.
He's your worst attacker.
I think he's one of the better attackers, actually. I think especially right now where he's having to play striker.
You talking about? Oh
he is. He's not as bad. He's probably not as good as I make it.
Like assist against Southampton, and people are like, "Oh, I can't believe that you said Pedro Neto is crap."
He's not as good as maybe I make him out to be. I don't think he's as bad as you make him out to be.
He's not as good as he was when he was 21. He was better then.
It's probably true. 2020, 2021.
We were really positive about him when he was young
because
he was putting up numbers that are better than the numbers he puts up now, and he hadn't had literally two full seasons out injured. Then he had another 2 injuries, sat out a bunch of seasons. When he came back, he was worse. And it's like, that's why I no longer like the player. And then you paid the price more than you'd have paid for him if you got him when he was 21 and actually good. It's crazy. He's not good. Bad transfer. You've overpaid for him. 55 million is money you could have spent on a real player in the summer. I think you need a senior centre-back. Do you not? You would probably still like to upgrade on Cucurella. You'd probably like to buy 7 or 8 more goalkeepers. A backup centre forward, so you don't have to play Pedro Neto.
Pedro can go as a bad transfer. That's fine. We'll go João Felix. I mean, it's bad. It is
terrible.
It's
bad. Disaster.
Killing Dewsbury Hill is bad.
Horrible.
It is.
Awful.
So those are the 3 most expensive from the summer.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We're not done, mate. We're not done. Philip Jorgensen. He's playing now.
No, but he didn't play. You didn't trust him to play for half the season, even when Sanchez was showing he was completely incapable of either saving shots or building up.
I honestly don't think at the moment you can say that any goalkeeper that Chelsea have signed in I don't know how long has been a good transfer.
I mean, we're not done there. We're not done there.
Slonina,
Amari Kellyman, some academy kid that they bought for 19 million quid. Bad transfer.
But that wasn't that like a bit of a fiddle. Wasn't that like we are your players? So like, you can have one of our academy guys.
Mike Penders, the other goalkeeper, back on loan at Genk. I mean, that's hard to talk about.
We're going through every single goalkeeper.
We are going through every transfer, my friends. I will say good because he is quite highly rated. Aaron Anselmo, not played a single minute for Chelsea yet. He is a youngster from Argentina, centre back, 19. We'll see. Amugu, who they bought in January, the last day of the window, from St. Etienne, the young midfielder who's meant to go to Strasbourg on loan next year. We'll see. I mean, sure. Right.
I don't love his profile, though. I was surprised when I looked at his profile. You know,
it always feels like the replacement of Andre Santos when he comes to Chelsea next year, basically.
But it felt like there was a period with, say, like RB Leipzig, where they would constantly pick up young players like this. And when you went and looked at them, you were like, "Oh, I completely see it." There'd be like at least one thing in their there'd be one thing in their numbers that stood out. You'd be like, "Oh, wow, he's an amazing dribbler," or "Oh, he has crazy high defensive numbers." Whereas quite often Chelsea will go and get these guys like Ugochukwu or this boy, and you're like, you go and look at their numbers and you're like, "This just looks like any young player." There's nothing here that's like blowing my mind. And obviously Chelsea have excellent scouts and blah blah blah, but they quite often then go and pay 20 mil for these guys or something.
He
and you
cost,
think
£13 million, I think.
It's not bad, but I still just think
it feels like a move for Strasbourg, really. Honestly, that's what it feels like. The next one, Caleb Wiley, £8 million from Atlanta. We've not seen him. He went to Strasbourg on loan, and then he's back at Chelsea now for the remainder of the season. Mark Guiu was a transfer they got for £4 million. I think that's all right.
I think that's good.
Yeah, I agree. Good transfer.
Why not? Gambling on a striker at $4 million is never really a bad idea.
It was unfortunate to get that groin injury against West Ham because he would be playing now. Toyson Adrabai on a free transfer.
Bad.
Really?
Bad.
I think it's fun.
I think it.
I think you'd be
bad
better.
transfer.
Well,
I don't think his wages are like crazy.
No, but I just
think it's like fine.
But I still think it's squad space that, like, you know, what's the young centre back who you loaned out? Yeah, Vega.
Well, we're about to get on to him. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I actually went past him in the end. Sorry, Renato Vega.
He could have got those toasted minutes in my view.
Because he wanted to play centre back, doesn't he?
But I think that's mismanagement though, more than the signing itself, though. Sure. Because I think like he just was never going to play centre back there. Like he was supposed to play. I think he was signed as a central midfielder, then started playing left back.
But then he also wanted to play centre back. That's the whole reason he went on loan, which is a weird one. Well, in terms of Toyson, I just think it's a fine backup defender, is what it is.
I don't mind.
To replace like Disasi with it is like fine, I guess. Though of course Disasi will come back.
He will, yeah. What happens to that?
But it's not that it's like you've wasted that much money on it. It's just that like it's squad space you didn't need to spend on him.
I do get what you mean. In terms of Renato Vega, Like he cost Chelsea 12 million pounds. I think it's a good transfer, but it's just whether he's there. Like,
not if he wants to, if he insists on playing centre back, it's not that.
But
good.
even if he leaves in the summer, right? Say this summer comes and Chelsea make 22 million pounds on him.
Yeah, it's fine.
Like it's fine. It's a good transfer, I guess. Double his money.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Jadon Sancho McCubbin. Chelsea are going to buy him for maximum 25 million pounds. Maximum. That's if they finish first.
Is that true?
Yeah. So the max amount of money, Chelsea, depending on, it will go down from 25 mil for where Chelsea.
But you've
finish.
already paid a fee to get him. So I don't
think we did.
I thought in total it was going to end up being like 40.
I don't think Chelsea paid a fee to get him on loan. I think it's a loan with an option for 25.
And his wages are
that we don't know what his wages gone to.
I mean, his wages at United.
At United, they were crazy, but
it's going to be like 300.
What? No way. No.
Why would he accept? Why would he leave Man United, where he's earning like 300k a week, to come to you
for happiness
to earn like 150k to play for the worst club in the most disgusting stadium in Europe?
Sancho wages. Your hatred for Chelsea, Pat. God. So
leave Old Trafford, a stadium which is like leaking, like Noah's Ark, to go to Chelsea, which is leaking in a different way.
Never.
Like, it's embarrassing, man.
They don't know the wages yet. I don't think it's literally not being reported at all.
It'll be crazy.
I'm more of a good transfer Sancho than I think even most Chelsea fans are.
I think on the basis
25 million.
I think on the basis of the performances this season, I think he's been, I think he's been better than Pedro Neto. He's been better, obviously better than Mudryk.
Worse than Madueke.
Probably marginally worse than Madueke, but I think he brings a better all-round game than Madueke. I think it's fine, to be honest. I think Sancho gets a lot of hate.
I think he does,
and I think he's certainly looked more comfortable in this Chelsea team than he has at United in years. So yeah, but yeah, I think long term, I think it's totally wage dependent.
Yeah, okay, that's understandable. I'm happy to put him in good transfer, perhaps maybe slightly less, but that is Chelsea done. On to Crystal Palace. Eddie Nketiah. It's a bad transfer, isn't it? In the end,
scored the other night.
Really. This is someone who we thought, like, again, you've got to remember the context of Elise has just left. Yeah. They're going to try and reform their attack, maybe a front two. Eddie Nketiah, last day of the window, wasn't it, as well? What it is
a terrible transfer for the player. Like, he's had... You think of when he started coming through and started, showing promise at Arsenal, probably, 4 or 5 years ago now, like... There must have been opportunities in that time for him to move to a club to get more game time. And to choose Crystal Palace just as Jean-Philippe Mateta was, turning into one of the most consistent strikers in the league. It's a bad move for the player, and a lot of money for Palace to spend on an area of the squad that they didn't actually really need that much in.
It's tough to look. I think a lot of people like the idea of the transfer.
I think, to be fair, it went down well at the time. Yeah, but I think that was
a good player.
I think maybe people didn't expect. And to be fair, at the start of the season as well, Mateta wasn't firing either.
No, he wasn't.
So I guess people were maybe expecting that Mateta form to just have been a purple patch at the end of the last season.
It's not.
He's like right back in form now. So it's just a shame because he's he's not young.
No, he's not.
He's like 25 now.
26, 25. Yeah.
So he needed that move to be the move that where he was going to be the starting number 9, and that's not been the case.
No, it's not quite worked out like that.
I think he'd be having such a good time if that Bournemouth move had happened.
Yes,
because he's a really hard worker and surprisingly decent dribbler. And if your job is basically get space in the box, which kind of is at Bournemouth, and press, I think that would have been great for him. He'd have loved it.
Whereas at times he's just not fitted. When it's
has he played as a centre forward by himself?
Not really. There are a couple of games, but even then it didn't quite work. And that was during the down period of Palace. And then he got shoved out to the right, and it just didn't work.
And he can't do that.
And then basically one of the guys who they did bring in as well in the summer is Marla Sarr, who's kind of found a new run of form now as well.
Good.
I think this Marla Sarr, we've seen him in the Premier League a few times, and especially when he was a lot younger at Watford, there was always really interesting parts to his game. And now he seems like he's been a good transfer. Really, it cost him about 13 million quid.
Really good,
good transfer. Maxence Lacroix as well.
Good.
Pass.
Good transfer. Maybe
Really
one of the
good
best ones of the season, of the transfer window, for being honest, as well. Come in and absolutely smashed it. I mean, obviously, Glasgow knows him really well from their time at Wolfsburg. But yeah, doing really, really well. Chadi Riyad was the other centre-back they brought in, the Moroccan centre-back, young guy from Real Betis, who played one game at the start of the season, then did his knee, and has been basically out for the rest of the season.
It's a shame.
But I mean, for the fee where it costs
young,
you £12 million, hopefully he comes back from the knee injury.
He's left-sided as well, isn't he?
Is,
so there's the possibility that he could be, if he were, he could be a Gehi replacement potentially in the future.
I'm happy to give that a good signing for the fact that he is still young. It didn't cost crazy money, and like the injury.
And people don't come back. It used to be, in the old days, like we'd be like, oh, will they come back the same? Now we know that like young players coming back from those injuries actually come back fine.
Yeah, fair enough. Romanese as well. They brought in the January transfer window. Hasn't played like loads, but looks really interesting. Looks really fun as well. Bless him, scored on his debut, didn't he? When they lost in the end. But
I love that.
While celebrating, I thought it was still very sweet.
Love that energy.
But yeah, I think it's a good transfer. I think it looks really, really exciting. Daichi Kamada, one that we liked. And hasn't quite worked out, has it? 27 years old, free transfer. So to a degree, how bad do you have to be a bad transfer if you're free? But I think he still might be a bad transfer.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because I just think I think it's just a bit of a bad fit. I think at Frankfurt he was able to express himself a lot more, and I think at Palace that just doesn't. With Eze there, and obviously with Sartre doing really well as well. I think, Kamada doesn't. I just don't think it's a team that's built to his strengths, or at least there's just not a spot there for him.
No, there isn't.
And
really, in their best starting 11, right? Say when Wharton is fit, Decore is fit. He's probably not fitting in that midfield, is he?
He's kind of had to try and reinvent himself as a central midfielder, which he's obviously played. He is a versatile player, but I just don't think that's where his strengths are.
Is it worth commenting about the Trevor Chalobah loan? Like, it was a good loan, right?
It was good.
It's just unfortunate that they had no control over it. He went back, and then Matt Turner was on loan as a sub-goalkeeper. I mean, it doesn't really matter, for sure. Dean Henderson is the number one. And Ben Chilwell has come in on loan for not not covering all of his wages. I think it's fine as a 6-month loan deal. See what happens. Absolutely fine. Good business in the end by Palace. Only Eddie Nketiah. Everton, Jack O'Brien. Starting to play under David Moyes. Obviously, they brought him in from Lyon. Scored a goal yesterday against Brentford. Everton look like they're fine now, don't they, under David Moyes? I think that was a good transfer, and especially maybe for the future as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Iliman Ndiaye.
Great transfer, yeah.
Exactly.
Great transfer.
Yeah, completely agree. Maybe again one of the better ones for this season.
Also, a great transfer for the Premier League. Like, he's such an entertaining player to watch. Like, a great backstory as well.
Yeah. Was on Rising Ballers.
He's a bit of a throwback, Ndiaye, I think. So
Completely agree. This guy, Tim Irabunam, hasn't played loads. There's been a bit of talk about him. Obviously, he's still young, 21 years old.
They need to give him more minutes. Like, they're investing too much time in Idrissa Gueye. Like, Idrissa Gueye now is like 35, and you can't. There's no point. Like, now, once you're safe, you should be trying to get these young guys as many minutes as possible. So now they are basically safe. Well, they are safe, really. Like, you should just like try and get your young players as many minutes as possible in the back half of the season, because they've invested in those guys, and they need to start thinking about what the next version of Everton is going to be.
The Bramley Murdoch version. So the sexy, slicker version. Like.
So they need to get these guys some minutes. Like, honestly, it's the same way that if Liverpool wrap the title up with like 5 or 6 games to go, Liverpool should roll out kids in as many games as possible in the back half of this in those last games, because
and go for the Champions League, right?
Yeah, but also just get them Premier League experience. It's really, really valuable. Like Kobbie Mainoo, we were talking about before. Kobbie Mainoo has had a pretty bad season, but he's had a ton of minutes playing in the Premier League at a super young age, that's only going to benefit him as he develops. Like, same goes for people like Lewis Skelly and Nwaneri, like, you know, loads of these
Conor Bradley
people.
at right back, right? Like,
sure.
Especially with the whole Trent situation, you've got your possible replacement there.
So Everton should take advantage of it and be like, okay, right, maybe the 35-year-olds, you know, maybe we pay a bit less of Doucouré, we pay a bit less of Gay, and we try and get some of these young guys we took gambles into the team just for the last kind of 5 to 10 games of the season, because that will benefit us next year.
Agreed. Jesper Lindstrom, obviously under Sean Dyche, wasn't quite favoured. David Moyes does seem to like him a little bit more.
He looks a lot better. A lot better. Like he was, he looked an absolute kind of shell of a man under Dyche. But I think it's funny, isn't it? Like, I don't even think it's just Moyes. I do think there's probably a few managers who could have come into Everton and just shaken things up a bit. Because I don't think that squad. You know, people love to talk about, it's a really, people love to like underestimate the Everton squad. Actually, I think their recruitment in general over the last like 2 years, given their constraints, has been quite good. I think Dyche had kind of lost. He'd lost his faith in that team like quite early on in the season. Lindstrom looks so much brighter.
But once Dwight McNeil got that injury, it felt like, God, how under Dyche anyway, how Everton ever going to score a goal? But Moyes has changed that really quickly. Begovic on for free transfer, whatever, third choice goalkeeper. Carlos Alcaraz on loan. I actually think he looked really good. Yeah. Looked really good. I quite liked when he was at Southampton a couple of years ago. Broja, they got him at the start of the season on loan. I know they're not paying all of his weight. Are they paying all of his weight? I'm not 100% sure. But it's a bad transfer, isn't it? Really,
not good.
Not worked out. And then Oriol Mangala, bringing him in from Lyon. Obviously, that was a weird transfer because, was it Villa? He was that before?
No, he was at Forest.
Sorry. They sold him to Lyon, and Lyon straight away sent him on loan.
And Lyon spent like a lot of money on him. They spent like 23 mil or something on him, and immediately loaned him to Everton. So I have no idea what was going on.
But I actually think to Everton, he's done a job. Like when he's played, he's been okay, done okay.
I like him as a midfielder.
Good transfer for me on loan. Fulham, west side of London, Emile Smith-Rowe. Good transfer. Has tailed off a little bit as the season's gone on.
Yeah.
But
I think it's a good transfer.
Started on incredible form.
And injuries always are a Smith-Rowe problem. But Fulham have been really good this season, and like Smith-Rowe has been a big part of that.
Yeah,
that whole attack has been pretty good. I think.
Completely agreed. Joachim Andersen, Henry put him forward for one of the overrated 11.
Interesting.
Which was interesting. He did say he is good. He's been good. And they said maybe Fulham fans overrate him. But the fee was at around 26 million pounds for him.
That's a lot of money.
But it is kind of like his final destination,
Fulham
isn't it?
But also I think you have to factor in the fact that Fulham were desperate for centre backs.
They
like
were.
Tosin had gone. Who's the
American
dude?
Tim
Ream had gone.
Who were crucial.
Palhinha left.
Yeah.
Like they were so desperate. So I think in that situation, I think 27 million for
with the context,
very experienced ball playing Premier League centre back from another London club who were
a rival to a degree.
Well, certainly
rival.
In terms of like mid-table and one of their most important players as well. I think that's actually fine.
Completely agree. I'm happy. Good transfer. I'd also say good transfer as well for Sander Berge.
Yeah,
I think he's been pretty good as well. And when he's been injured, I think or that midfield hasn't had him, or who's the other DM that's
Sasha Lukic.
Sasha Lukic. They've really suffered in that defensive transition. But I'm happy to give good transfer to Sander Berge. The other boy as well, Reece Nelson on loan, when he's featured, he's done pretty well.
He always looks bright, man.
Yeah.
But like he got injured at a really terrible time. He was just getting into the team and then he got injured, which sucked for him. Man, Reece Nelson, every time I watch him, he is kind of electric in sub minutes though. Yeah. So I'm just, I would like to see, it's pity because I think Arsenal fans thought, okay, we'll get to see how good he actually is. And he's not young anymore as well. He's 24, 25. So I think that's a little bit disappointing, but like it's a loan. It doesn't matter.
It's a good transfer. It is a good transfer. Because basically by the last week of that transfer window, Fulham had barely done anything. And actually, if you look back through them now, they've done okay. George Cuenca was centre back. They kind of just needed another option. And I think they barely paid like 5 million for him. Absolutely fine. Ryan Sessegnon back on a free transfer. Absolutely fine. Like it's not going to break the bank, but he's not getting in over Robertson anyway, really. So they just needed cover.
Yeah.
And then Willian, like 2 weeks ago, for free.
Hate it.
Bring him home. He's back. Sure. Yeah. I mean, it depends on his wages. Didn't really see what his wages were, but
Sure.
Whatever. Okay, Ipswich.
Oh,
God.
Jaden Philogene in January, Mikey.
I think it's a good transfer. I mean, Ipswich are obviously in major trouble.
Yeah.
They're investing in a squad for the Championship next season.
Exactly,
Philogene was great in the Championship last year. Quite a lot of, not cheap, but like Ipswich clearly have had that money to spend. I think Philogene is I think he's good.
Completely agree. I think that was
got a couple of goals.
as we've mentioned throughout the season. This squad, if they go down, I don't think they're going to lose too many of them, and they'll be great for they've got Jack Clark, who we mentioned in a second. Omari Hutchinson, good transfer.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they did spend a decent wedge on him. I think it's around £20 million for him. But
I think they could make a profit on him. I think he is clearly a Premier League level attacker. I think they could make a profit on him.
Be interesting to see whether he stays. Jacob Greaves at the back, £19 million, brought him in from Hull City.
That's a Championship signing.
Yeah. Exactly. He'll come back up with them.
He was like one of the best centre backs in the Championship.
I think they knew they were a bit lucky to get promoted.
Yeah.
And they were like, well,
let's get the opportunity.
And they got promoted with a League One squad as well.
Yeah. And let's get these players who are not going to be an albatross if we get relegated. And maybe they're great. Maybe they're Premier League quality and we stay up. And they didn't stay up, and that's fine.
Well, who knows what happens? A couple of weeks left, guys. Liam Djellab. Good signing, great signing.
Great.
Especially considering they paid, I think it was like 15 million for him as well.
Yeah,
they'll sell him
a big profit now.
Yeah, they'll sell him for so much money.
God, yeah, he's getting them at least 40 million, I think. Jack Clark, one of the best wingers in the Championship a couple of seasons ago, or last season, hasn't really featured. They did pay about the same money they paid for Liam Djellab. I think just maybe a little bit less for him.
Not that much.
But they hasn't really contributed. Like, he doesn't necessarily start all the time. I think he's actually been a little bit disappointing for someone who people considered one of the best wingers in the Championship for Sunderland last season.
Definitely.
It is still a good signing for the fact that, yes, once they go down, they've got one of the best wingers in the world.
In the world.
Sorry, in the Championship, in the league. I think it is a good signing that
If they kept all these guys, their attack in the Championship would be incredible.
Like if they had Liam Djellab there
Imagine if they had Djellab, like
Murray,
Clark, Hutchinson and Philogene. That'd be crazy.
With Schmodix on the bench.
Yeah,
it's
great.
ridiculous. But, like, I don't know.
For keeping them in the Premier League, all these transfers are shit. Like, like a bunch of them, like Omari Hutchinson was never going to do that.
Yeah.
Like Greaves was never going to do that. But I think Ipswich had a very good understanding of what they needed these transfers to be, and I think they basically hit the mark on most of them.
I think the one thing that they didn't spend enough time on last summer was trying to reinforce the midfield. I think that's been their Achilles heel this season. Like their midfield is so thin.
No midfielders here really.
Yeah,
you're right. I mean, I guess
Calvin Phillips.
Yeah, Calvin Phillips on loan, but I mean, Calvin Phillips kind of shown that he's probably a Championship player right now. If we're being honest,
this is actually a problem, though. I'd say across all three of the clubs that are getting relegated. Yes.
Yeah.
Because Leicester went and spent money. We'll come onto it, but spent it badly. Yeah. Southampton actually, I thought it would be okay, but like for whatever reason, I think kind of Russell Martin has to take that one. But
yeah. Really quickly then, Dara O'Shea, good signing, I think, again, especially. I think he's all right. Sammy Schmodix,
sure.
8 million. Great for the Championship.
Only 8 million they spent on Sammy. Really?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good price.
You know what? Bad transfer, Muric. Muric has been
expecting a lot from
awful. Absolutely awful. Wasn't good at Burnley. Still spent money, I think.
He was good. No, he was good at Burnley last year.
He wasn't. You know what? James Trafford had a really tough time, and it was bad. And they got Muric in, who was a little bit better, but still bad.
I think you're being harsh on Muric. I think there was a lot. I think the reason why it's been bad, particularly bad at Ipswich, is because I don't know. But when that transfer happened, I was like, "This is great. Like, this is exactly the kind of keeper that you want in a relegation battle." Like, he's used to facing a high volume of shots.
Though.
But it's been bad. It's been bad. I was expecting it to be good. It's been anything but that.
And then I guess Alex Palmer they brought in January.
How are we still on Ipswich, man?
He barely cost anything.
They signed quite a lot.
Signed so many guys.
I think they had like
Johnson,
the second biggest net spend in the league.
Good signing. Julio Enciso on loan. January, good enough. Ben Godfrey, January on loan.
Yeah,
sure.
I've not seen enough of a lot of these January signings. I've been I was out of the country for the first 2 weeks. Of February,
move on.
That is the ultimate comment too much.
Like,
Zach just reading them off and going, sure. It's like that's what it's like. It's like Ben Godfrey, sure. Right, sure.
It's an ambitious video, isn't it? Like,
it is.
Every single transfer.
It is. So we'll move on then to Leicester. Ollie Skip.
Hang on, before we move on, we're winking. Is that a problem?
Yeah, so it's going to cut to these cameras. We'll have to, if we face the cameras, you just have to look it to one of these two. I haven't got enough.
Okay, right, sure.
On to Leicester then, and let's talk about Ollie Skip. You mentioned there, Pat. Awful.
Garbage.
Awful.
Like I don't like the player at all, but more than that, I just think they overpaid for him. Like it was very clear that he was not going to come in and like save their season. And Leicester have been the most porous team in the league. Yeah. Like when you play against Leicester, I think they're actually easiest to play against than Southampton are. Like Arsenal beat them when we beat them 4-2 like in the autumn. I looked at that score at the end was way more respectable than it should have been. Like it was just so easy to play through them. And then since Van Nistelrooy's come in, they've kind of overtaken like the Lopetegui West Ham we saw in the first half of the year as being like the most open and naive team. It's astonishing how easy it is to play through them, and they don't have the centre backs to pull their asses out of the fire because like Valfas I think is I don't know. He's not crap or anything, but he's not good.
He's definitely not good. I mean, neither's Vestergaard.
But I mean, like obviously they did come up from the champ. Like whatever. I think that if you're coming up from the championship, just invest in some ball winners in midfield. Just get some guys in midfield who make it difficult for the opponents. And every time I watch Leicester, I'm like, this is so easy for whoever's playing against them. You're like, you get the ball, you just pass through the middle of them, and then you're up against Valfas. So
yeah. No, exactly. Completely agree.
Ollie Skip 25 mil. Crazy.
Awful transfer.
And you've already got him. You've already got Winks. He's the same player.
Bilal El Khanousi, they brought in from Genk, and he's been.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah. He's been okay.
I think
they
still
spent like nearly 20 million on him. That's a lot. Plays off the left, goes at cam. I'm happy to give. If we got to give them a good transfer,
really young.
It's fine.
He's really young.
He is indeed. Fatawu they made permanent. However, then got injured for the rest of the season.
But he is fantastic.
I do agree. And even if they go down, he'll be fantastic there as well. Caleb Okoli, who they brought in from Atalanta in the summer, I actually like the deal. But he's played at times. He's then been in and out at times. Been on the bench a few times. I mean, that whole back line for Leicester hasn't been fantastic. I do think it is a good transfer, and I think he'll be good in the Championship. I just don't know whether it's quite worked out this season. But fine. If you want another good transfer, we'll give you that for Okoli. Michael Golding, haven't seen him at all from Chelsea.
Made up.
So I guess technically bad transfer, but one for the future. Jordan Ayew. It's a bad transfer. It's a bad transfer, really. Like going forward, they've not scored any goals.
We shouldn't have any Ayus.
Yeah, I agree. Bobby Decordova-Reid.
No.
Bad transfer. They've got Buonanotte on loan. He actually has been one of their best players.
Yeah, we like
it's
that.
a good transfer.
He's good.
Odsonne Edouard on loan.
Bad.
Horrible.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of stuff about him behind the scenes, which is.
Oh really?
Yes.
Did not know that. Wow.
About him being not necessarily totally focused on his football.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. Over to Liverpool then. The main camera is actually probably going to go, so we're going to go to the side cameras just because we've been shooting for so long today to get videos done. But I guess technically we've got to speak about him. I know he went on loan. Giorgio oh my God. How's it said?
Mamadashvili.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. It was like my tongue was getting twisted as that was happening. It's a good transfer, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Getting him early. He'll be 24, 25 by the time he joins.
Yeah.
It's a good transfer.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I don't know. I think, like...
30 mil?
Is it 30? I thought it was 40 mil from Valencia. Maybe it's about 30 mil. But I just, I do really like him. It's just going to be interesting to see him transition from a team that's constantly been battling relegation, like facing tons of shots. Does so at the Euros last year as well. That's kind of his bread and butter. It's just facing tons of shots. He's a great shot stopper.
But you think ball at the feet?
We're just yet to see exactly how good he's going to be. How good he's going to be. Like I think, I don't know. We had Lawrence McKenna on the lowdown a few weeks ago, and he was pretty confident that Mamardashvili was just going to come in and replace Alisson at Liverpool, which I just find just feels a bit premature still.
In an ideal world, you'd keep Alisson for one more season. I don't know if they can do that because I feel like he wants to move on. But surely you try and keep him for one more season, let them learn from it. Sell Kelly maybe.
Yeah, I think for a keeper with world-class potential, that's a good price to pay. But we just yet to see it. He's not been at Liverpool this season. He's been in a relegation battle with Valencia.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think. Well, exactly. We'll see what happens. 30 million isn't the worst transfer in the world. They have to go and get another goalkeeper.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, let's say good.
Federico Chiesa, Pat. They didn't spend a lot of money on him. They got him for barely
like 12 mil.
Yeah.
But they don't trust him at all.
Exactly. And he's already been injured several times.
Yeah, he's just like that. I think that guy might be kind of washed, like if he just can't get fit again. But it's very clear that Liverpool have the attackers they trust this season and a bunch of other guys. And he's definitely in the bunch of other guys.
Him and Nunez in their own changing room.
But at least Nunez, you throw Nunez on and you're like, Nunez will do some stuff. Nunez will get some shots and cause some chaos. Whereas you put Chiesa on and I'm like, oh, this might just nothing might happen.
Yeah. I mean, considering they did all that business in the top of the league, fair play, Arne Slot, winning the Premier League. To Manchester City then. Talk about their summer business first, then their January business. In the summer, Savinho. I know they got him at a cut rate due to parent clubs, but it is a good transfer. Yeah. It is. I think he's really going to develop into a fantastic player for them. Ilkay Gundogan, free transfer, bad transfer. Just not worked out with him at Man City. His return, I mean, the whole squad just looks so leggy, doesn't it? Then the January boys, Omar Mamouche. It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
It's good though.
Yeah. He is good, but is he really good. 70 million?
He has looked great so far. I think in some ways, like the money's like almost a little bit irrelevant with City at this point because whatever charges they may face, their PSR is fine for them because they've sold so well over the last few years, and I think, in January, they were desperate, weren't they? Like, they were desperate. They needed to secure Champions League football. I think they will do that now. And Marmouche, not only has he looked really good, but I think Haaland's looked a lot better alongside him as well. I think he's brought something to City that they didn't have before. So I had my doubts over the move before, but I think he's very quick. He's hit the ground running, hasn't he? So, yeah.
Did you know he's part Canadian?
Marmouche.
Yeah, half Canadian, half Egyptian. Just on that there. Very interesting.
Cool combo.
Nico Gonzalez. It is a good transfer.
I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
Again, massive fee. Yeah. But like if he can, that's kind of where City are at now. Like they can't just buy players for cheap. Like they've got to be serious about the rebuild they're doing. And even if Nico Gonzalez proves to be a Rodri backup for how much did they pay 60? Was it 60 as well?
Basically.
Like maybe you just have to do that. Like maybe you do just have to do that in general if you want to sign like a very good central midfielder now. Because there's such a dearth of them.
And the midfield are going to need more players, genuinely, with the way it's looking, some of the boys that are getting older.
But at least he can play with Rodri or cover for Rodri. Like that in itself is so valuable. Mm-hmm. Like the idea that next season, De Bruyne is clearly washed. So like next season you could have Rodri and then you can have Nico Gonzalez crashing the box the way that he did in Portugal. That's quite interesting. They haven't made a problem for themselves in the squad with him.
No, fair enough. I'm happy to give him a good transfer. And then a couple of youngsters we've got to talk about. Kuzanov. A lot of money.
Good. I think that's interesting.
A lot of money. I do think as the more games he's played, he's looked a lot more comfortable. Bless him for having to deal with Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Junior as a right back, and he did okay.
In the first half of the away game, he was horrible, and then in the second half, there were a couple of times where Vinny was like, "Oh, I've got this guy," pushed the ball and went, and Kusanov just walks past him.
Yeah,
he's insanely fast.
I thought he was good against Spurs when he featured.
I like him. Yeah. He's just raw. He's a young defender. Yeah, it sucks to be a young defender, especially in Pep's team.
And someone who speaks probably none of the languages as well that are being spoken there too, bless him.
And City desperately needed recovery pace.
Yes.
So like in the short term, he kind of can provide that and find his feet.
Again, he's cost 40 million euros.
They've paid basically too much for all of these guys.
Yeah,
but that's what
they kinda
happens.
needed to.
That's what happens if they'd done these like in the last couple of years, then they'd have paid better prices. But unfortunately, everybody knows they're desperate. So you just say, right, 10 mil more.
And we've not seen anything really of Vitor Reis yet. So I think he played in the...
He's very highly rated, though.
MK Dons game, didn't he? But yeah.
And Brighton wanted him too, which is quite a good seal of approval.
Are after him. But again, they paid a lot of money for him. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Main camera's still yet to go. Manchester United, McCubbin.
This is a big long list.
Here we go. Lenny Yoro first.
Weirdly,
60 million.
Yeah, I'm not actually. I don't think. I feel like we're probably not going to be that disparaging about these transfers. I don't think United. I don't actually think. I don't think United's problems really stem from They didn't stem from last summer. Like if I think if United hadn't spent the money on the players that they spent last summer, like God knows where this team would be. To be honest, Lenny Yoro, I think it's really unfortunate with the injury. He's 18 years old, but like you've seen moments from him where you're like, wow, this guy could be like a serious centre back in years to come. I think he's been unfortunate. I think he would have played a lot more minutes had he not got the injuries. I mean that sounds obvious, but I think even now he'd be starting a lot more regularly.
Do you think he works in the back three?
Or
do you see the best Lenny Yoro in the back three?
I don't know. I don't really. I've not seen enough of Lenny Yoro in the back four to say. I didn't like watch enough Lille when he was there, but I think he's looked good.
To pay 60 mil though, he has to be some defender. Like he's going to have to be one of the best ones in the league.
Oh yeah, but I mean you're buying complete potential there, aren't you?
Yeah.
And United were, got in ahead of Real Madrid to sign one of the most highly rated centre backs in world football. So, like, it's obviously a gamble. Like, I don't think we can say that it's worth 60 million in his first season, especially when he's only been fit to play for 2 months or 3 months now.
So, would it be okay to call him a bad transfer? But with the acceptance that there is huge potential that he could be amazing.
I don't know. But it's like saying Kasanov's a bad transfer. Like I would still say it's a good transfer.
Okay.
Like we literally haven't seen Mamadashvili. Like Mamadashvili isn't playing in the league, and we're saying he's a good transfer.
If he'd played more, Yoro, and he'd been great, would anything about United's season be that different?
Yeah, true. Maybe they'd be 10th.
Not really.
I don't know. Maybe it would be a little bit better. Maybe we would have conceded a few
the bigger issue is you can't score goals.
But my point is, I don't think that you'd be in a different position. Contending for Champions League it's not that big a difference maker.
I'll give happy with them say good transfer. Manuel Ugarte, I think.
Yeah, been good.
Probably a good transfer. I do ultimately think he's probably been one of the better players during the down period. Would you want to say bad transfer about him, Pat? Like I know they spent basically.
I don't really think you can say bad, just because he does what you wanted him to. But to me, he and Zirkzee fit into this category where I'm like, I don't hate the player, and I don't think the fee was terrible.
Yeah.
Actually, Ugarte was a bit more than.
Ugarte was basically 50 mil. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
a little bit.
Okay, so that was more than I liked. But they're not terrible players. It's just I think United could probably have spent that money better.
Yeah.
With Zirkzee, I didn't think they should sign him. They didn't pay that much for Zirkzee, but they could have spent the money better. I actually think Zirkzee has been considerably better than I expected him to be. Mm-hmm. So that's more the issue. With United, it's not necessarily that the players are bad. It's that it's the Calafiori problem. Could you have used this money better? Mm-hmm. I think probably in quite a few of these cases, the answer is yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair enough. Delict.
Especially since you changed system, I guess.
Yeah,
definitely.
Delict's a funny one. I would probably still say good, just because the fee was pretty good, and he is so experienced, and I think he is
40
going
mil
to.
From Delict.
He is going to be he will be the bedrock of that defense for a number of years now.
You don't see him moving on again, do you? Obviously, he moved from Ajax to Juventus, then very quickly Juventus Bayern. Don't see him leaving United for a while.
I don't know. I don't know where he'd go next. Really,
true.
He's kind of chosen to. He kind of chose to take a bit of a gamble with his career in coming to United, given United's standing compared to the clubs that he was at before. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if Ten Hag wasn't there last summer, would he have chosen the move? I'm not so sure as well. But yeah, he's kind of made his bed now. He kind of has to deal with it. I don't think. I don't know where he'd go from United, at least at this point.
40 minutes.
But even in a year's time, when United maybe finish 6th or 7th again, like where does De Ligt go from there? I think his long-term future very much is at United.
Would you give him good transfer, Pat, or bad transfer? Because that one's really in the middle. Because it's still 40 minutes.
I still think it's good. He's a guy who's actually played in a back 3 and a back 4.
Yeah.
Like, he has lots of physical abilities. He's been a bit of a set piece threat at times this season.
He's better than Johnny Evans.
I think, basically what you want is to use him as like a kind of marker. So right now, he's one of your better fit centre-backs. But what you would hope is that 3 years' time, you're like, right, our aim should be that De Ligt is our worst centre-back.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you want to build towards. And if you end up in that position, then you're doing a really good job.
Joshua Zirkzee ultimately is a bad transfer. Doesn't necessarily fit the system. Isn't the striker. And like, I know it wasn't, say, like £60 million, but it still was a decent chunk of change.
He does.
I don't think he's been that bad either.
Yeah, he does have at least some resale value.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to fit him in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like really, you want him playing. Well, I mean, you have seen against Everton, he did play in the front two with Højlund, but Højlund has been so far off the level recently that. Yeah, it's hard. He's had a better season than Højlund for sure. I thought it was a good fee, but like if there's going to be one, I'm trying to think who are the other
two
ones.
Dorgu, obviously got sent off yesterday, and Mazraoui.
I think if there's going to be one bad transfer from last summer, I think you give it to Zirkzee just because United probably just didn't need a striker in that mould at the time. Like, he hasn't been utilised, in a front two really at all this season. When it has happened, it's not worked out. I don't know. It's like Zirkzee will have like 4 pretty bad games and then have one game where it's like it just opens up for him. But I think in the Premier League, you don't get there aren't very many teams who will give you enough space between the midfield and defence for Zirkzee to do what he does really well. So yeah.
Okay. Dorgu, it is very early. I know he got sent off yesterday. Very young, but at least he's a left wing back, which ultimately
I think United.
Transfer.
I think the balance of United's team looks like so much better with him in, at least in possession. But really stupid challenge against Ipswich.
Bad challenge, really bad challenge. But managed to get the win in the end. Mazraoui, who I thought started the season really, really well, has maybe dropped closer to United's form in recent weeks. But I still think
I think it's kind of natural, isn't it? You can't keep it up forever if the team around you is so bad.
It was like what, 15 million quid, if not a little bit less.
I think
it's about a good transfer. Newcastle then. We're not going to count Lewis Hall because he joined basically on loan the season before. And essentially, they brought in a substitute third-choice goalkeeper for a lot of money. That kind of, again, we've mentioned before, the PSR stuff. We're not really going to cover that. And then it's a Lloyd Kelly on a free, who's now at Juventus.
Whatever.
Ultimately, a fine transfer, I guess, if they've made a bit of money on that. But that is literally Newcastle, essentially. Not much else to talk about them for their transfers. I mean, if you are talking about Lewis Hall, technically on a permanent, good transfer, but it is what it is. Forest then. Elliot Anderson was a lot of money and part of that PSR stuff, but a great transfer.
Great transfer.
Been really, really good. Milinkovic, great transfer.
Amazing.
Brilliant transfer. Roman Sosa at the left wing. I don't know, we've seen him like have moments.
Tell you a thing about him.
I think he's appeared every now and again on the bench, but he's not really part of their.
That's a big whatever.
Yeah,
bad transfer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so
they
spent 10 million on
somebody had the guts to say
it. Same thing with Morato. Bench option for them.
Who?
Morato, centre back.
I thought you said Ratto.
No, Morato.
Ratto.
Brazilian centre back on the bench. Jota Silva has actually been okay for like 6 million quid. He's made substitute appearances. The Jack Grealish.
Yeah, are we comparing him to Jack Grealish? Are we comparing him to prime Jack Grealish?
Yeah, why not?
In which case, bad transfer.
Fair
enough. But for £6 million though, not £100 million. So probably about the same output.
That's quibbling.
About the same output.
Splitting
He's
hairs.
all right. Yeah, he's good.
Carlos Miguel, the goalkeeper, not playing though, is he? Because it sells in goal. That's basically.
He is huge though, so I'm willing to give him a good transfer. He's like 6'8". So
£4 million just for a good transfer. Southampton.
Was that it? Was that all the business that Forest did last summer?
They weren't that.
They're so settled.
They had a lot of outgoings.
They got a lot of outgoings. They sold
many people.
Yeah, Mangala, Worrell, Niakita, the goalkeeper to Newcastle.
Yeah, they did like a double transfer to Lyon for almost 50 mil.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of money from them. Okay then, Southampton, Taylor Harwood-Bellis. I think is a good transfer, even for the Championship. He's already had an England cap.
Saints, I think, did the same thing as Ipswich. They were like, we are going down.
Yeah, basically.
Except for Ramsdale. Ramsdale was the one thing they did where you were like, do they think they're going to stay up?
And Ramsdale.
Bad transfer. So bad, like from both. It's a bit like the Nketiah one. It's like, weirdly coming from Arsenal as well, it's like, what an awful career move for Ramsdale to have made there, I think. I mean, I do still expect him to be able to, well, I think skill-wise, I think he should be in the shop window for Premier League clubs in the summer. But then does who pays the fee that Southampton are going to demand? Because I don't think he does. Like, I don't think he is a £30 million goalkeeper, really, not to a Premier League club who have got like multiple other areas that they want to strengthen in.
Yeah.
I wonder. I think it's a really bad career move for him.
Like, do you think?
Well, he might have to. Like,
choice he's going to have.
Essentially,
unless somebody comes in. I mean, like, it's possible. How old is Pickford now?
30, yeah.
Okay, so he's not quite old enough. Like, what you really want is to find that club whose keeper is 32, knocking on 33.
But they did come up though. Like, I think everyone said they came up and they weren't expected to come up. Like, them beating Leeds was mad. And and their squad wasn't very Premier League ready then. Wasn't Premier League ready when they went down. And so it's not that they have kind of improved slightly for this. Like Flynn Downs, for instance.
They got loads of guys though who are like interesting. Like sometimes you look at a player.
Mateus Fernandes, who's played a lot of minutes.
Or Sulemana.
Yeah.
You look at guys like that and you're like, okay, is he flying right now? No. But if I put you on a top team, would you be amazing? Like Sulemana and Dibbling, certainly you look at and you think, I reckon if I just surrounded those guys with talent, they could maybe be amazing.
I mean, some of these guys here.
Harwood-Bellis, similarly, We'll
fly through some of these then. So Flynn Downs, I think, is fine. Ultimately, he's okay. Yes, he's fine. Not like breaking the bank. It wasn't necessarily like 15 mil, 16 mil. Cameron Archer started the season okay, fell off massively.
Yeah. I wonder whether he's
17 million.
Yeah, I wonder whether he's Premier League.
It's a bad transfer in the fact that ultimately they can't score goals and they can't defend. But like they definitely can't score goals. And essentially, Cameron Archer was one of the guys to try and put the ball back in net for them. Didn't work out. Yeah. I would say Mateus Fernandes has actually been a good transfer. Under £15 million. He's only 20 years old. Played a lot of minutes in midfield for them. Portuguese midfielder. Bringing him in from Sporting. And has looked okay. Looked pretty good. One of their better assets, I think. Will be interesting to see him in the Championship.
I think someone should take a look at him in the summer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Premier League teams should take a look at him.
I think he's been one of their shining lights out of a very dim city. Ben Brereton Diaz, bad transfer.
Horrible.
If you are a Premier League club, right? I'm going to say it to this camera because I think the other camera stopped. If you are a Premier League club and you've just come up and you're saying, I need a striker, do not go for Ben Brereton Diaz. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Genuinely, I don't get why we keep falling for this.
I think you're being a bit harsh. I think in the second half of last season, he was quite good for Sheffield United. In like a really bad Sheffield United team, like one of the worst. Like still went down obviously, but I think he's got like 6 goals. Like I don't think he's that bad.
I'm done with him. Genuinely, where's he on loan now? He's gone to somewhere in the Championship.
Mate,
he's at Sheffield United.
He's
gone back.
United,
he's gone back.
Yeah,
maybe he'll come back up with them. We'll see. Seguara, we like that transfer. We'll see what happens with
I like that transfer. I think that was like also kind of geared towards like Russell Martin.
Yes. And what's his face will be leaving in the summer. The fullback from used to play for Spurs.
Kyle
Walker-Peters will be leaving in the summer as well. Sure. Who else? Anyone worth speaking about that?
No,
not really.
Definitely not.
Adam Lallana, bad transfer.
Ugachukwu
on loan.
Yeah. Did he play?
He's played more now than new managers.
He's had his moments. Yeah, he's had his moments.
He looked okay for them.
But you were kind of dreaming on him. You were like, the story at the beginning of the season, you were like, if Southampton stay up, then part of the story you tell is Ugachukwu is just like an amazing ball winner in midfield, and he has not been that.
No, not at all. Okay, Tottenham Hotspur, Dominic Solanke. We're going to really rattle through these.
That's good. That's good.
Good transfer, Dominic Solanke. I know a lot of money spent.
Top dollar,
I did like it.
but good player.
Archie Gray, good transfer.
Yeah.
Definitely. Wilson Odobert. Been injured for most of the season.
Yeah, he was good at the start of the season.
But even yesterday, like when he played against City, like
I think something different.
He's someone they've missed, definitely on that right wing. Kalinsky in goal. Good transfer. So we've gone through 4 Spurs transfers. We've said 4 good transfers.
Yeah, why aren't they good?
Bergful.
Good.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
5 good transfers out of 5. Matthias Tell on loan. They're paying a lot of money.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
But good player.
I mean, I've not seen enough of him yet.
We'll see.
To comment.
We'll see. We'll leave that
personally, I just haven't watched enough Spurs in the last 3 weeks.
Min Hock Yang, currently on loan at QPR, ripping it up for QPR. One for the future. We'll see. I feel like a bit harsh to comment on that. Kevin Danso on loan. Is that with an option to buy? I can't remember, but still.
I think
they need
another centre back. Yeah.
There you go then. So 6 transfers. We said.
I think they're obliged to make that permanent.
Okay, well there you go. We've said all of them are good transfers, and they
Crazy.
are 14th, 13th.
There are some question marks around Danso, but like.
Yeah, but I mean,
won the transfer window. There you go.
Biggest issue.
Well done, Spurs.
Yeah, it was more the.
Another.
What happens? Oh yeah, West Ham coming up as well.
So we've got West Ham and Wolves to fly through on the last guys.
Jesus Christ, West Ham.
Here we go. West Ham. Max Kilman, £45 million. I think the transfer's actually good.
Big
It's
fan
a lot
at the
of
time.
money. A lot of money.
Big fan at the time. Good start. I think long term, probably good. You're not a fan, Pat?
Like, just 45. I don't know.
It's a lot of money.
It's just really hard to gauge because I do quite.
We do like the player,
but West Ham suck. Their defense has been terrible, and 45 mil is.
But for Potter, he'll work even better. You think, don't you?
Yeah.
Guy can play with the ball at his feet. Yeah. Left-footed.
I feel like a lot of these players. Well, I think West Ham in general, we're not going to really see. No. We're not really going to see what West Ham is under Potter until next season. I guess
if we're doing it for
this
season,
he needs at least 6 months with the squad.
Agreed.
If we're doing it for this season, I'll be happy to give you Kilman as a good transfer.
Yeah, Kilman, fine, good transfer.
Somerville though, for this season, it's been a bad transfer.
But I think he will be good.
Agreed. Fulkrug.
Horrible.
Bad,
It was bad at the time. It was a bad idea.
Tip your hat, mate.
The first person who had that idea should have been sacked.
Tip your hat,
Kicked out of the club.
Luis Guilherme, the Brazilian winger, super young, one for the future. Did spend like 20 million on him.
He's very highly rated.
Okay. Aaron Bissaka, I actually will say good transfer. I think he's been one of their best players, actually, to be fair, so far this season. Guido Rodriguez, another free transfer. I think a bad transfer.
Don't love it.
Old, hasn't quite worked out. Wes Foderingham hasn't played, won't count him. Carlos Sulla on loan. Has had moments, but not really that great. Bad transfer.
I think that's bad.
Jean-Claire Todibo, they needed centre-backs. This is someone who almost ended up at Man United. Bad transfer.
I've always been a fan of Todibo as well. I've wanted him to do well. I've wanted his career to take off.
Bad transfer.
I don't know. Yeah.
Bad transfer.
I still would not be surprised if next season we're like, hey, this Kilman Todibo situation.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's like pretty good. Yeah, like a full preseason for Potter, getting a proper DM, I think, alongside Alvarez or to replace Alvarez because I don't love him either. But like somebody in there. I still think this is quite a fun squad for Potter.
Yeah.
I think he can kind of cook with this.
I mean, Evan Ferguson, last one. We think it's a good transfer. It's a good transfer on loan, isn't it? We'll see what happens with him in the summer.
Perfectly
he's not really featured that much already yet. From the final team, Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Yay.
Andre, the DM, has came in the summer.
Right.
I actually think he's been all right. Yeah, for £20 million, he's been okay. Like, especially with Lamina leaving as well. I mean, their job is just to stay up. It looks like they're going to end up doing that because there are 3 worst teams. But my God, they've got to do some stuff in the summer, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
They really need
Everything negative we said about Wolves has basically been correct.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, Wolves fans are like, we're staying up now. Cunha's been great. So, like, you guys need to eat your words. It's like, guys, you were in a relegation battle despite having Cunha.
Yeah.
Like, until very recently.
It's not the best. A couple of January transfers they made. Agbadu.
I love that signing.
Yeah, a really good centre-back signing. They just needed a centre-back.
He's sick. How much was he?
He was around £18 million,
That's good. That's really good.
I do tend to agree. They did bring in Marshall Munetsi. We've not seen a lot of him yet in midfield, so I don't feel like
he's going to be really highly rated as well.
Rodrigo Gomez, the winger, Portuguese winger from Braga.
I think a good transfer.
It cost them like 13 mil.
Yeah, I think he was electric in Portugal last year. I fully expected him to like just kind of burst onto the scene with Wolves this year. I was completely wrong. I think it's been premature, but from the sounds of it, he has like a really good attitude. And like you say, cheap, young. I think he's got a future. But he's also been a bit unlucky with injury as well. So yeah,
Fair.
I think good.
Sam Johnson. They spent basically just over £10 million on this guy. That was bad. That was really bad because when Jose Sarr, who hasn't had the best seasons either this year, was out, they put Sam Johnson in goal, who was 10 times worse. He has been really, really poor this season. So I think it's a bad transfer, ultimately, from Palace.
He is a backup, though, isn't he?
He's a backup. But he's
10 mil for a backup.
Yeah,
he's a backup that's almost taken him down.
Yeah.
And you kind of think as well, like in the past, there used to be this thing where people like, well, you have to go and spend big money on a goalkeeper because like you need your goalkeeper to be really reliable. Now I actually think that goalkeepers can be had for very little money if you know where to look. Like you can pick people up. There are almost always goalkeepers who are out of contract who you can pick up to tide you over for a bit. Like that's actually how a bunch of Premier League clubs have done it. It's also how teams like Inter have done it. So like there are almost always options to be had for relatively little money or nothing. And so when a Premier League team goes and spends like 10 mil on a keeper, I think I want to see that money on the pitch. And you definitely have not with him.
Not at all. Two more to mention. Tommy Doyle, who they got from Man City's academy. Didn't spend that much on him. He's had moments. He's like very much a younger guy. He's 22 to be fair. But he has looked one of their better players, I think, when he's been on the pitch for them. The other guy who I do want to mention, Jørgen Strand Larsen. If we're talking about their front line, I actually think he's been a good transfer on loan.
Yeah, sure.
I think there is also an option to make that permanent, if not obligation. He's been a bit of a nuisance up top. He's obviously a physical striker, has managed to find the back of the net a bunch, links up really well with Cunha.
Knew that focal point. I don't think Cunha has the season that he has without Strand Larsen in front of him. Like the amount of space that Cunha has like managed to have on the edge of the box. There's a reason for that.
Agreed. I think that's a good transfer. But there we have it, guys. Long video done. I will say into this camera because, as I said, the other camera is off. It's maxed out its SD card. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have appreciated it and enjoyed it. Get in the comments below for what your opinions were of some of these transfers. We covered every single one, guys, and we tried our best to give enough time to all of them. Pedro Neto, thank you so much for giving me your time today. Into whatever camera you like, please say where they can check you out.
You can find me at the Transfer Flow podcast. I'm on that twice a week. You can also find me
at
Unseen Incidents with Patrick and Pete. We put out episodes fortnightly. I don't know. I'm also on like Blue Sky and stuff. You can message me any abuse on Twitter because I don't check my notifications.
How is Blue Sky going? I made an account a while ago, but I haven't actually engaged. I haven't launched on it. Is it good?
It is much nicer. Like honestly, I don't use it like that much, but it's really funny that I think I posted something on Twitter for the first time in ages, and like I got like 5 people abusing me instantly, and I was like, and they were just like, why have you gone to Blue Sky? Like you just want to be in an echo chamber. And I was like, I don't even talk about like politics or whatever. Like I just talk about football. So I thought, this is kind of, I get much less of that on Blue Sky.
Perfect.
Good time.
McCubbin, where can they see you, my friend?
On the Lowdown every Thursday on Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel.
Where can they hear you?
Where can they hear me? Sedilia on Spotify, Bandcamp. We put out our first YouTube video in January as well. A really nice video shot by James Wayne and Kieran Carlin. So top quality stuff. And then we're also playing a gig next Saturday at a place called Moon Lake in North London.
So when this video is out, that is actually tomorrow.
Okay, well,
that is tomorrow. So.
Yeah.
If you guys want to get tickets, then make sure
stick
you
a link
check
in
that out.
Stick a link in the bio. In the
description.
Yeah.
In the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm not 100% sure if there's a video next week because I'm in Mauritius for a little bit for a holiday. So we'll
Malaysia
see.
and then Mauritius.
We'll see. I'll try my best. If you want to see some of that, then go on Instagram. But love you lots. See you later. Bye.